Hi there, I'm Renos Vakis, lead economist at the World Bank, and your host for Accelerating Development Ideas for Impact. This is not your typical podcast. It's an AI powered conversation brought to you by the World Bank Institute for Economic Development, where we unpack the latest research with one goal in mind, turning big ideas into real world impact. Let's get started.
Thank you for the introduction, Renos. We all agree that boosting investment in developing economies matters, but the real story in the new Accelerating Investment Challenges and Policies report is how to turn that agreement into something that actually works on the ground.
That is precisely it. The report looks at something it calls investment accelerations. These are sustained periods of really rapid investment growth. And when they happen, they are truly transformative.
Transformative how? I mean, are we just talking about numbers on a spreadsheet?
No, not at all. We are talking about deep human impact. During these accelerations in emerging market and developing economies, output growth jumps to nearly 6% a year. Productivity growth more than doubles.
Okay, so the whole economy gets a boost, but what does that mean for people, for jobs?
It means a lot. Employment rates rise, and this is the most important part. These accelerations are associated with faster poverty reduction. The national poverty rate declines by half a percentage point every single year during one of these episodes.
Wow. So a person who was struggling to find work now has a steady job. A family might be able to afford better food or schooling for their children. That's a huge deal.
A very huge deal. But here is the challenge we face now. These powerful investment accelerations have become much rarer.
Rarer? What does the data show?
The trend is quite stark. Back in the 2000s, almost half of all these economies, 48%, experienced an investment acceleration.
So it was a relatively common success story.
Exactly. But by the 2010s, that number had fallen dramatically. Less than one in four economies managed to start one.
So we've gone from about half of countries seeing this boom to less than a quarter. Why the big drop?
It's a combination of factors. The global conditions have been less helpful, certainly, but it also points to a waning momentum on domestic policy reforms within countries themselves.
Okay, so that's the turning point. If the problem is a slowdown in reform, the solution must be about getting that momentum back. Where do policymakers even start?
This is where the report gets very interesting. It shows that successful accelerations are almost never the result of a single isolated reform.
Ah, so there's no magic bullet. You can't just, change one tax law and expect a boom.
Precisely. The evidence points to comprehensive packages. Think of it as a coordinated push on multiple fronts at once, stabilizing the economy, opening up to trade, and strengthening institutions.
A full package deal. Is there a way to measure the impact of doing that?
There is a policy package that improves a country's fiscal balance while also expanding its openness to trade and financial flows raises the probability of igniting an investment acceleration by about 9 percentage points.
9 percentage points is a significant jump. And does this apply to private investment too? That's always the big goal, right?
Yes, a similar package focused on fiscal consolidation, trade reform, and liberalizing the capital account increases the chances of a private investment acceleration by almost 11 percentage points. It shows the private sector responds very strongly to these comprehensive signals.
And I imagine the quality of institutions, rule of law, government stability, plays a big role in all of this.
It is critical. The analysis shows that moving a country from the bottom quarter to the top quarter in institutional quality alone can increase the probability of starting an acceleration by over 5 percentage points.
That connects the dots for me. It's not just about the policies you write down, it's about whether people and businesses trust that those policies will be applied fairly and consistently.
That is the foundation. Now, this brings us to the second key takeaway from the report. Even when investment happens, its effectiveness is not automatic.
Okay, so just getting the money flowing isn't enough. You have to make sure it's working smart. Let's talk about public investment first. How can governments make sure their spending really pays off?
Well, on average, in a developing economy, an increase in public investment equal to 1% of GDP is associated with a 1.1% increase in output 5 years later.
So, a little more than a one for one return, that's not bad.
It is not. But here is the contrast that policymakers must understand. In a country with efficient public spending and healthy finances, that same investment raises output by up to 1.6%, about 50% higher.
50% higher? But what about on the other end? In a country with high debt and inefficient spending?
In that case, the output effects are small and not even statistically significant. The investment delivers very little growth. The domestic policy environment is everything.
So, where you start from determines your results. And does good public spending help bring in private money?
It does. We see a strong crowd in effect. Efficient public investment can lead to a rise in private investment of up to 2.2% after 5 years. It signals that the government is serious and it often builds the infrastructure that private companies need.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's shift to private investment directly. What kinds of structural reforms unlock its potential?
Reforms targeting trade, finance, and the rules governing markets can boost private investment by a cumulative 2.2% over 3 years. But again, the secret is in the packaging. It is a profound lesson. Coordination is not just a nice to have, it is essential for success. This same logic applies to foreign direct investment or FDI.
Right, attracting international companies. What does the report say there?
It says the impact of FDI depends heavily on the host country's absorptive capacity. Basically, how well the country is set up to benefit from that investment.
So, just opening the door to foreign capital isn't the full story.
Not at all. On average, a 10% increase in FDI inflows is linked to a 0.3% GDP increase after 3 years.
That seems a little small.
It is, but that growth boost rises to 0.8%, nearly 3 times as much in countries with strong institutions, better human capital, and greater openness to trade. A better domestic environment unlocks the full power of that foreign investment.
So, a country with a more educated workforce and fair rules gets more bang for its buck from FDI.
Much, much more. And what's more, those good institutions are a magnet. Simply improving a country's institutional quality from the middle of the pack to the top quarter can increase its FDI inflows by about 1/5. Good policy creates a virtuous cycle.
It all seems to come back to the same core ideas. It's not just about one policy, but the whole package. And it's not just about getting investment, but creating the right environment for it to thrive.
That is the heart of it. The path to sparking these transformative investment accelerations is not through isolated actions, but through comprehensive, credible reform packages. And once that investment begins to flow, whether it is public, private, or foreign, its power to reduce poverty and create opportunity is magnified tremendously by a country's own commitment to strong institutions and sound policies. For policymakers, the message is clear. The groundwork you lay at home determines the harvest you will reap.
Over to you, Remos.
Thank you for joining us. You can find the full report on our website. Just follow the link in the description. Be sure to subscribe to be the first to know about upcoming episodes. And before you go, How do you plan to put what you learn into practice? And what topics you'd like us to explore next? We'd love to know. Until then, goodbye.